Hello students, in this class we'll be looking at what are the refrigerants we will generally use, also refrigeration equipment or refrigeration VCR applications which we will use in general day-to-day usage. Those two we'll discuss in this chapter. So by definition, we can say that a refrigerant is a working fluid used for absorbing and transmitting heat in the refrigeration system. Say if you take a VCR system, we have four components, as we have already covered this topic, VCR system. So there will be a evaporator, and after that there will be a compressor. After compressor there will be a condenser, and after condenser there will be expansion valve and so on. So here the refrigerant, which is the working fluid running in this any refrigerant, say R12, which is also named as Freon 12. So refrigerant, what it will do is it will absorb heat in the evaporator. If you keep some items in the refrigerator, it will absorb heat into this. This refrigerant will absorb heat in the evaporator, and this heat will be carried along with the refrigerant, and in the condenser it will reject the heat. So here it is absorbing heat and also it is rejecting or transmitting heat in the refrigeration system. That fluid is called as a refrigerant. Okay, the refrigerant absorbs heat at low temperature, that is evaporator, and low pressure, and release heat at a higher temperature and pressure. So in the condenser it will release heat, whereas in the evaporator it will absorb heat. That is the duty of the refrigerant. So most refrigerant undergo phase change, maybe in a VCR system or VAR system, that refrigerant will go under phase change. That means liquid to vapor and vapor to liquid. Only air refrigeration is an exception, because in air refrigeration air will be in a gaseous state all the time, and that is why he said most refrigerants undergo phase change. This is the definition of a refrigerant. So in general, if you see the requirements of a refrigerant, this is the pH diagram of VCR cycle. This is a practical, so that is why none of the points met this saturation curve. So 1 to 2 is compression, 2 to up to this point it is 4, it is condensation, 4 to 5 is expansion, and 5 to 1 is evaporation in the evaporator. So if you see the qualities of a refrigerant which we require to select that refrigerant, first one is specific enthalpy of vaporization. This is nothing but latent heat HFG. So here latent heat is only the refrigerating effect 5 to 1. Here it has to absorb heat from 5 to 1. That means liquid refrigerant is converted to a vapor refrigerant. So this specific enthalpy should be high. If it is having more enthalpy, more latent heat, it will absorb more heat, so that we can get more cooling effect. That is why it should be high. Next, low boiling point and freezing point. So here in the condenser, what happens, it is this vapor refrigerant is getting converted into a liquid refrigerant. This should be low, because what happens is here in the evaporator, liquid refrigerant is getting converted into vapor refrigerant, and in the condenser, vapor is getting converted to liquid refrigerant. So during this evaporation, this temperature should be low. That is why it is low boiling point. It should be say around say minus 10 degrees. Then only it can absorb heat. If you take a fridge, you will kept items around 15 degrees like that. So it should be absorbing heat from this. That is why this boiling should be less than this required temperature. That is why he is saying low boiling point. And also freezing point should be low. Here at this point we will get the least temperature in the cycle. If the freezing point is a minus 10 degrees, when it expands in the expansion valve, there is a chance of freezing. That is why freezing temperature should also be less than the evaporation temperature. High critical temperature and pressure. We know that at critical point, which is this point, is the critical point. At critical point, latent heat becomes 0. So if latent heat becomes 0, the whole concept of latent heat will become 0. That is why evaporation and condensation will be very tough. That is why critical temperature and pressure should be far from evaporation and condensation. So that should be as high as possible. And next thing is, it should not react with lubricating oil. We have discussed in hermetically sealed compressor, there refrigerant is open to lubricating oil. If it reacts with lubricating oil, the whole process will get changed. That is why it should not react with a lubricating oil. It should be non-toxic. That means even though there is a leakage, it should not be harmful to human beings. Non-flammable, it should not burn. Non-corrosive, that means it should not react or corrode the pipings and evaporator, condenser and all. Also safe to use. Even at higher temperature, it should not explode. These are the desirable properties. And also low ozone depletion potential. The refrigerant should be very less reactive to ozone. That is why we know that mainly CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons, these are the refrigerants which are mainly culprits in ozone depletion. So present days many CFCs are banned from usage, mainly R12, R22. These two are now present days it is banned because these two refrigerants are main involved in ozone depletion. So this should be as low as possible. So low cost, it should be cheap and easily available, easy to store and handle. Any refrigerator or say air conditioner, there will be frequent filling of a refrigerant. That should be easily done. Easily we can carry a tank and fill that refrigerator or air conditioner. This handling should be easy to identify the leaks. Even though if there is a leakage, we should be able to easily identify these leaks and should give high COP. These are the main requirements of a refrigerant. So now we will see, depending on what criteria we will select the refrigerant. Say every equipment will be served differently. Say suppose there is a water cooler. Water cooler means it should freeze, it should chill water up to a say suppose 5 degrees centigrade or 10 degrees centigrade. Below that temperature we will not require cooling. Or if there is an ice cream storage, here the temperature should be minus 10 degrees centigrade to minus 20 degrees centigrade. Depending on the application, we should select the refrigerant. This application will have different requirements, and this application will have different. Here condensing temperature refers to this temperature. So here this temperature is the condensing temperature. It should be say suppose in some countries the maximum temperature reached will be 30 degrees, whereas in say Middle East like Dubai and all, there the outside temperature will be 50 degrees maximum. So depending on this condensing temperature, we should select the refrigerant. Similar to freezing temperature here, depending on the application, we will select the refrigerator. If water cooler, less evaporation temperature is sufficient, whereas for ice creams and all should be very less. Also latent heat, this from 4 to 1, it should be as high as possible. Generally for ammonia, it is having the highest latent heat of vaporization, around some 400 or 500 kilojoule per kg, but it is very toxic in nature. That is why in domestic applications ammonia will not be used, whereas in industrial applications ammonia is very much used. And also specific volume, this is important at this point. When the refrigerant is entering the compressor, the volume should be as less as possible so that it can easily be compressed. So specific volume should be low, latent heat should be high. Stability and inertness. So one more disadvantage of ammonia is, if ammonia is used in copper pipes, it will react with copper pipes and copper pipes will get corroded. So this type of stability is also required, even though that is why in domestic applications where copper pipes are used, we will use CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons. Toxicity and explosiveness, this also should be there. If there is it is toxic in nature, we will use only for industrial purposes. If it is not toxic, then we can use for domestic purposes. Depending on these criteria, we will select the refrigerant. So here these properties of the refrigerant can broadly be classified as thermodynamic properties, physical properties, chemical properties, and other economical properties. So first, thermodynamic properties means a temperature, pressure, volume and all will come under thermodynamic properties. Physical properties like flow, this leakage, tendency and all will come under physical properties. Chemical properties means reactiveness, non-corrosive, non-flammable, non-toxic. These are all common chemical properties. So coming to thermodynamic properties, we have already discussed. It should be there should be low boiling point and low freezing point. Evaporative and condenser pressure. This pressure gap, that means in compressor we have to compress the refrigerant from evaporator pressure to condenser pressure. If this gap is too much, we have to give more work. Say for pH diagram, this is like this. If this pressure is condenser and this is condenser pressure, this is evaporator pressure. So if this gap is more, this work will increase, this W compressor will increase. So this should be as low as possible, and also evaporator pressure should be higher than atmospheric pressure, because if there is a leakage, if evaporator pressure is higher, it can easily detected because refrigerant comes out of the refrigeration system, whereas if it is less than atmosphere, air will go into the system and it will damage expansion valve and compressor because of freezing of moisture content in the refrigeration cycle. That is why always evaporator pressure should be higher than atmosphere and condenser should be close to the evaporator pressure. I have already said critical temperature and pressure, because latent heat of vaporization should be greater than 0. It should never reach critical temperature and pressure. Latent heat of vaporization should be high, specific volume should be low, specific heat should be low, so that we can easily achieve subcooling and superheating. That is why specific heat should also be low. So if you remember, if you see TS diagram, this is a simple VCR cycle. So here at this point we will adopt subcooling. So if it reaches this point, this will be expanded like this. So this much of refrigerating effect is increasing. So to achieve this subcooling easily, the specific heat should be less, so that we can get subcooled temperatures. Here also this point should be easily superheated. If specific heat is less, this can also be achieved. This also improves the performance of the refrigerating system. So the thermal conductivity. So thermal conductivity also should be higher to achieve faster cooling and heating or heat absorption. Coefficient of performance should also be high. Coming to physical properties, here viscosity, this depends on compressor work depends on viscosity. If viscosity is high, compressor work will be more. Viscosity means resistance to flow. So this should be as less as possible. Leakage tendency should also be less. So coming to dielectric strength, we know that in a hermetically sealed compressor, all windings, motor windings and all are exposed to refrigerant. So that refrigerant should not lose its dielectric strength. So dielectric strength means we know how a spark plug or arc welding works. So here there will be a electrode. This is, say, if it is a negative, this is positive. At some voltage, this dielectric medium, which is air or water, air in this case, air, this strength will be, this resistance will be broken and electricity will pass through this arc. So similarly, this refrigerant should not lose its dielectric strength because of electricity. That is also a important physical property. Next, coming to chemical properties, you know that it should not be flammable, explosive, poisonous, toxic, and should not give high odors, and also should be non-corrosive. And other desirable properties, economical properties, low cost, easy availability, store and handle, and it should not react with a lubricating oil. These are the properties which we should consider selecting a refrigerant in a refrigerating system. So coming to classification, there are basically two types of refrigerants. One is primary refrigerant and second one is secondary refrigerant. So primary refrigerants are those fluids which directly involve in the cycle. So it will absorb heat in the evaporator and it will reject the heat at a condenser. This type of refrigerant is called primary condenser. In some cases, in the evaporator there will be a secondary refrigerant which rejects heat to a primary refrigerant, and this secondary refrigerant is used to cool the actual products. So secondary refrigerants are those liquids which are used for transporting thermal energy from one location to another. So these are called brines or antifreeze. So generally brines means if you mix CaCl or CaCl2, calcium chloride or sodium chloride, which is salt, mix in water, it will be called as brines. These are also called antifreeze because they will not freeze at 0 temperature, 0 degrees centigrade. Generally, they will freeze below 0 degrees centigrade. So this is a popular refrigerator model we will see in cool drink shop. In this we will be able to see both primary refrigerant and secondary refrigerant. How we will see? So in this case, what happens is, there will be a box around which there will be evaporator coils in which refrigerant will be flowing and it will absorb heat from this box. So inside the box there will be water. Inside this water there will be water. So this heat the refrigerant absorbs in the evaporator coil will be from water which is inside the box, and in this water we will place cool drink bottles. So these cool drink bottles are cooled by this water. Here the refrigerant flowing in the evaporator is called primary refrigerant, and the medium which is transporting heat from these cool drink bottles to evaporator coils is called secondary refrigerant, which is water. So another good example of this primary refrigerant and secondary refrigerant is chiller AC. This is generally used in where the outside temperature is always above say 40 degrees centigrade or always warm temperatures. In those cases these type of AC units are used. This is chiller AC means because always there will be cooling inside the AC system, that is why it is called chiller AC. So here what happens is this is the condenser in the VCR cycle and this is the evaporator in the VCR cycle. In this evaporator water will be circulated. This water will be cold water which will be supplied to different floors, here, here and here. In this AHU means air handling units, in this air handling units this cooling water will be used to cool air and this cold air is supplied in this floor. Similarly, same cold water will be supplied here, here. Here the primary purpose of air conditioning system is to cool the air. So here air is cooled by using water which is circulated in different air handling units. So here the primary refrigerant is generally used is R134A or R ammonia in some cases, and the secondary refrigerant which we are going to use in this case is a water. That is how we can discuss the primary refrigerants and secondary refrigerants. If you compare between primary refrigerants and secondary refrigerants, here primary refrigerants directly take part in refrigeration systems, whereas secondary refrigerants first cooled by the primary refrigerant and then employed for refrigeration. So in this case the secondary refrigerant water is cooled by primary refrigerant ammonia first and then it will be used for air cooling. That is what he is saying. Next, primary refrigerants generally cool the required medium by absorption of latent heat. So in VCR cycle, in evaporator always there will be absorption of latent heat, whereas in secondary refrigerant generally they will absorb only sensible heat. That means here in this case water will be supplied at say at 15 degrees and out water will come at say 25 degrees. So only sensible heat will be absorbed by secondary refrigerant. So that is why primary refrigerants will go phase change, whereas secondary refrigerants will not undergo phase change. Primary refrigerants chances of leakage is more because of pressure fluctuation. In condenser there is a high pressure is present in the system. That is why there is a chance of leakage, whereas secondary refrigerants will always be at constant temperature. There is only heat transfer, there is no compression and all. That is why chances of leakage is very less. So generally primary refrigerants can absorb always if there is heat transfer, there is some loss. So if you apply secondary refrigerant, there is a loss when primary refrigerant is supplying heat to secondary refrigerant, and secondary refrigerant supplies heat to a cooling medium. Whereas if you only apply primary refrigerants, it will cool directly the cooling requirement. That is why it will be more efficient, and whenever high capacity refrigerating systems are there, generally primary refrigerants are used. But primary refrigerants, generally CFCs, ammonia and are very costly, whereas secondary refrigerants are low cost because it can be a water or brine solution. So coming to the refrigerant types, generally we are saying that we will use different types of refrigerants, and what are those types we will see. So primary refrigerants are basically 4 types. One is halocarbon compounds. So these are carbon compounds having halogens. Halogens means fluorine, chlorine, iodine and bromine. These halogens are present, then it is called as halocarbon compounds. Next one is azeotrophs. Azeotrophs means it will be a combination of different refrigerants, like one single azeotroph may be a refrigerant having 80% R12 and remaining 20% may be a R22. These type of combinations will be there in azeotrophs. Hydrocarbons are only methane, ethane and all will be hydrocarbon refrigerants. In some cases, these can also be used as refrigerants. Inorganic compounds means air, CO2, ammonia and all come under inorganic compounds. And secondary refrigerants will generally use water or in some cases brine. Brine is a mixture of NaCl and CaCl, or separately NaCl and sodium chloride and calcium chloride. And also it can be water can be mixed with ethylene glycol to reduce its freezing temperature, or propylene glycol. These combinations are, if it is water is mixed with NaCl and CaCl, these are called brines, whereas if these two are mixed, these are called antifreeze. We will see in R&AC we are seeing different codes like R22, R12, R22, R134A, like that. So we'll see how these codes are given to a refrigerant. Depending on the type of refrigerant, we will assign a, if it is a halo compound carbon, that means it is having halogens and carbon, then we will adopt this kind of system. Say suppose there is a refrigerant R XYZ. This can be like R0, 1, 2, like this. R12, R0 refrigerant 0, 1, 2. So XYZ indicates, X plus 1 indicates the number of carbons. That means if you add 1 to the first number, it will be carbon 0 plus 1, 1. Y. Y indicates number of hydrogen atoms. That Y should be minus 1. That means here already we are saying 1 is there, 1 minus 1, it will be 0. And then last is Z. Z indicates number of fluorine atoms. So fluorine will be 2. The balance indicates the number of chlorine atoms. How to calculate these balance atoms? I will say. Say if it is a methane group, that means it should be CH4. If it is a ethane group, that should be C2H6. That means for 1 carbon 4 atoms should be there. If it is ethane, for 2 atoms, total 6 atoms should be there. So for methane only 4 atoms are required. So here C is there, F is 2 atoms. So remaining 2 atoms should be 4 minus 2. 2 atoms should be remaining. The balance indicates the chlorine atom. So for R12 the chemical composition is R12, the chemical composition is CCl2 F2. These are the how to this is the code we get from the chemical formula, or we can derive this chemical formula from this code. We'll see another 2 examples. So I will do it for R22. So R22 means R0 to 2. So first atom we have to add 1 and we will get carbon 1. Second number we have to minus 1 and we will get hydrogen 1. And this will represent fluorine atoms and remaining will be chlorine atoms. So we got C, C1, H1 and F2. So for one carbon there should be 4 atoms. Already 1, 2, 3. 3 atoms are already there. So 1 atom remaining for chlorine. So CH, C, Cl, F2. So that is what we'll get, CH, Cl, F2 for R22. Okay. So now we'll see how to derive the chemical formula for R134A. Here it is C2H2F4. We'll reverse this. So we'll calculate code from this chemical formula. So here C2H2F4. So first we have to minus 1 from carbon. So 2 minus 1 is equal to, first number is 1. So for H you have to add. So 2 plus 1 equal to 3. So number of fluorine atoms is 4. For C2, so for this is a ethane group. So C2 there will be 6 atoms. So already 2 atoms are there, 4. So there will be no chlorine atoms. So from this we can say that for C2H2F4 the code is R134. So this A represents isomer. Isomer means atoms will be, say in 134, if atoms are for one carbon there are say 6 atoms like this, and A134A this arrangement will be different. That is the only difference. Chemical composition will be same as R134. A represents isomer, that means change of atomic structure. This is the method how we can derive the code from chemical composition and also from code to chemical composition. Whereas this methodology is used only for halocarbon compounds, whereas for inorganic compounds like ammonia, air and carbon, so that are for inorganic compounds first letter is always 7 and remaining 2 letters XY, say this XY is molecular weight of the compound. Say for ammonia chemical composition is NH3. So NH for H it is 14 molecular weight plus 3, it is 17. Molecular weight of ammonia is 17. So the code will be R717. So for air atomic weight molecular weight is 29. So this will be R729. So if you use carbon dioxide as refrigerant, carbon dioxide CO2, C is 12 O2 is 32. So atomic weight is 44. So it will be R740. This is how we will derive the refrigerant codes for inorganic compounds. So in the next part, we will discuss about applications of VCR system. A domestic, these are the 4 equipment we have in syllabus. We will discuss about domestic refrigerant, ice plant, water cooler and cold storage. This is the circuit diagram of a domestic refrigerator. You have to remember this. All these for 4 refrigerants, 4 equipments works on VCR system. That means the 4 main parts, which are evaporator, compressor, and then condenser and expansion valve. These 4 will be present in all the systems. Depending on the application, this will change. In domestic refrigerator, we will use capillary tube. In industrial purposes, we will use TXV, thermostatic expansion valve. In water cooler also, this is also domestic application. That is why this is also will use capillary tube. Remaining all will be same. So coming to the domestic refrigerator, this is a layout of a domestic refrigerator. This is the compressor. This is generally hermetically sealed compressor. So from compressor will take vapor refrigerant from the evaporator, and it will compress it to a high temperature and high pressure vapor refrigerant, and it will be sent to a condenser. Condenser will cool this vapor refrigerant into a liquid refrigerant, and in the capillary tube, which is wound around the suction line, this capillary tube will reduce the pressure and temperature, and this low pressure, low temperature refrigerant will be sent to a evaporator. Here in a domestic refrigerator, what we will say as freezer is the evaporator. It will absorb heat in the evaporator, which is freezer, and that evaporated refrigerant will go back to the compressor. This is the cycle of a domestic refrigerant box. This is called as thermostat, which is temperature control. What happens in this thermostat is, here after reaching certain temperature in the evaporator, this will cut off the compressor. That is why there is a electrical line to the compressor. So whenever say if depending on the setting, say if you set the temperature to minus 10 degrees centigrade, there will be upper limit and lower limit. So suppose if the refrigerant in the evaporator reaches minus 10 degrees, it will be sensed by a thermostat, and it will give the signal to the switch. What happens is, after reaching minus 5 degrees centigrade, this switch will cut off the power supply to the compressor. So the compressor will be stopped. So after reaching if the refrigerant flow stops, what happens in the evaporator is, the temperature in the evaporator will start to increase. So after increasing up to minus 5 degrees centigrade, so this thermostat will sense the temperature, and it will again start the compressor, and cooling process will be. So in the switch, which we will find a knob in the refrigerator, will only change these temperature limits. This is how a domestic refrigerator works. So this is a ice plant. This is similar to VCR system. There will be a compressor, condenser, receiver is to separate vapor refrigerant and liquid refrigerant. Dryer will absorb moisture content in the refrigerant. Expansion valve will decrease the pressure and temperature of the refrigerant. So liquid refrigerant, receiver acts as a storage tank. So after liquid refrigerant reaches the evaporator, this will cool the. So here we will be having a brine tank. That means this tank will be having brine solution inside the. This evaporator coils will absorb heat from brine tank also. So this brine will reject heat to the refrigerant, and this brine will absorb heat from the ice. After some time, ice will be formed in the cans. These cans are taken out of the solution, and ice will be removed from these cans. If you look at it practically, this is how these ice cans are, and this is how ice is made. This whole, what you are seeing here, this whole molds will be submerged inside the brine tank. So evaporator coils will cool the brine, and this ice is formed. This is how a ice plant works. Coming to the water cooler, this is a domestic water cooler. Generally you will observe in railway stations, colleges and all. So here, so this is the water tank where water is there, and remaining are same. So there will be a compressor. After compressor there will be condenser, in which it is rejected, it is passed through a strainer and sent to the evaporator, which is wound. These evaporator tubes will be wound around the tank. So automatically this refrigerant will cool the water in the inside the tank. Okay, this tank will be provided with a tap to tap this cold water, and also to maintain the level in that, here there will be a float chamber. Depending on the level of the water, this float chamber is operated, and also there will be a thermostat to control the temperature of the water. So if there is no thermostat, what happens here is this water gets freezed and there will be no water. That is why thermostat is very important in the case of any refrigeration system. After reaching the desired temperature, this thermostat will be play an active role in cutting off the power to the compressor. So after evaporation of refrigerant in the evaporator, this will be sent back to the compressor. Here there is a heat exchanger between the refrigerant coming out of the condenser, and also, so this helps in superheating of this refrigerant coming from the evaporator, and also subcooling of refrigerant coming out of the condenser. This will improve the performance of the VCR system. This is how a practical water cooler looks like, and only top part will have a tank, and around the tank there will be a insulation. This yellow part is all insulation around the water tank, and the VCR system will be in the bottom half. The next equipment we will cover in this chapter is a cold storage. Here cold storage is generally used to store any perishable products like chilies, fruits, vegetables, and these kind of food items will be stored in a cold storage. So for cold storage, what we will do is that air will be cooled in the VCR system. There is a compressor. Compressor will be send the vapor refrigerant to a condenser, and in the condenser vapor refrigerant will be converted to liquid. Expansion valve will decrease the temperature and pressure, and it will be sent to a evaporator. The evaporator heat is being absorbed. So in the evaporator there will be air intake. So when air flows over these evaporator coils, thus that air will be cooled, and this air is blown into the refrigerated space using blowers like this. So cold air will be sent to the cold storage. That is how a cold storage works. It is also simple VCR, only the layout, the size of the VCR system changes. Remaining are all same: compressor, condenser, expansion valve, evaporator. Here also compressor, condenser, expansion valve. This is the capillary tube. After that, evaporator, compressor. Here also same: compressor, condenser, expansion valve, evaporator. Here also same: compressor, condenser, expansion valve, evaporator. These are the 4 equipment which we have in the syllabus. Okay, we'll see you in the next class. Thank you.